David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney+. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney+ every night.
Tonight, breaking news. Another American service member dies in the war with Iran, a country that just named a new supreme leader, and he's already facing threats from Israel and President Trump. We begin with the news just coming in. A 7th U.S. service member dies after suffering injuries in Iran's first wave of attacks. Iranian state TV says the new leader is the son of the late Ayatollah. Israel says he will immediately become a target. President Trump tells our Mary Bruce that leader won't last long without his approval. Israeli attacks leave an oil depot in flames with toxic fumes filling the air and acid rain falling on Tehran. Iran is firing back, hitting radar facilities, an office building in Kuwait, and now drinking water supplies are under fire. James Longman reports from the region tonight. And late details on an explosion at the U.S. Embassy in Oslo, Norway, now being investigated as a targeted attack connected to the war in Iran. Growing concern over Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium. President Trump is not ruling out sending in U.S. special forces to seize it as Israel vows to step up its bombing, saying many targets remain. Martha Raddatz on what happens next. Soaring energy prices as oil shipments dry up. Gas prices are up nearly 50 cents nationwide. It's close to $6 a gallon in some places. And tonight, airline CEOs are sounding the alarm, warning that airfares may soon be going up. In New York, police say improvised explosive devices were thrown near the mayor's residence during a protest while the mayor was inside. What we're learning about the 2 suspects arrested. Plus, a beloved teacher's tragic death. Police say it started as a prank, but now several teens are under arrest. Record warmth is fueling severe storms. Now more dangerous weather is on the way. Our weather team is tracking it all. The brawl after the buzzer. A college basketball fan picks up a chair after the home team loses. And America strong tonight. 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 months.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Linsey Davis. We begin tonight with breaking news and a sobering reminder of the human cost of war. Another U.S. service member has died after being wounded in last week's attack in Saudi Arabia. This is a defiant Iran has named a new supreme leader just 1 week after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in the early hours of the war. And just moments ago, state media announced his 56-year-old son has been named his successor. But President Trump told ABC News before that announcement that Iran's next leader, quote, is not going to last long. Israel is also echoing similar sentiments, and massive fires are raging across Tehran after Israeli strikes target oil refineries. This war is now 8 days old. We have team coverage once again tonight. ABC's chief international correspondent James Longman leads us off from Iraq.
Tonight, another American service member has died in the war against Iran. CENTCOM announcing that an American wounded in an Iranian strike on a base in Saudi Arabia a week ago passed away from their injuries last night. The news coming a day after President Trump attended the dignified transfer of the first American casualties, 6 soldiers killed in the early hours of the U.S.-Israeli offensive at their base in Kuwait. President Trump yesterday signaled that more U.S. personnel might make the ultimate sacrifice.
They're great heroes in our country, and we're going to keep it that way. There's always, when it comes to war, there's always that, but we're going to keep it to a minimum, I think.
And just over a week since the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei, Iran is tonight reportedly naming his successor. Iranian state TV says his son, Mojtaba Khamenei, has been named. Israel says whoever is chosen will automatically become a target, and Khamenei is expected to follow the hard line of his father, meaning his election may not change the trajectory of this war. And it is expanding on every front. Israel is now targeting energy infrastructure. This huge attack today on an oil depot in Tehran sent poisonous fumes into the air for miles around. Residents were warned to protect themselves against toxic fumes. Israel calls this a terrorist target, but civilians will feel the cost of this too. Iran says well over 1,000 people have been killed so far, including 190 children and 198 women. Tonight, CENTCOM is issuing a warning to Iranian civilians, saying Tehran positions military targets in built-up areas. With the internet blocked inside Iran, civilian voices are difficult to hear. But ABC has made contact with some, like Hamid, who tells us, honestly, hope is difficult to find. The truly frightening possibility is that the United States might suddenly leave the Iranian people alone with these rulers. Israel's offensive against Hezbollah in Lebanon is widening too. Lebanese authorities say more than 400 people are now dead, 83 of them children, 42 women. Hundreds of thousands have been displaced. And despite US and Israeli assurances that Tehran's missile and drone stock is severely depleted, the regime is still able to lash out at targets across this region. A desalination plant in Bahrain hit in a drone attack. And this government office building in Kuwait City ablaze.
And James, just before we came on the air, we learned that Iran had chosen a successor to the supreme leader who was killed at the start of the war. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, Mojtaba Khamenei. He is the 56-year-old second son of the former Ayatollah. He is, of course, also a cleric. He's considered to have been close to his father, often seen alongside him at public events. Also close to the brutal religious militia, the Basij, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And Donald Trump has said that Mojtaba Khamenei would be unacceptable to him as supreme leader. Linsey?
James Longman in Iraq for us again tonight. James, thank you. And as you heard from James, our chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce spoke with President Trump earlier today before we learned about the death of another U.S. service member. But they did discuss the casualties of war. Mary, tell us more about that conversation.
And Linsey, I asked the president if witnessing those dignified transfers of 6 of the Americans killed in this war gave him any pause about this operation. But the president was steadfast, telling me, quote, no, not at all. In fact, he said that the parents of the fallen who he met with yesterday would be upset if he did that, adding that they all told him to, quote, please win this for my child. I also asked the president about those reports that the Iranians are getting close to naming their next supreme leader. And Trump told me that any new Iranian leader, whomever it is, has to be someone that he personally approves of, and that, quote, if he doesn't get approval from us, he's not going to last long. I asked the president if he would be willing to work with someone who has ties to the regime, and he told me, quote, I would in order to choose a good leader. And he said there are many people who would qualify, but Linsey, he wouldn't name names.
Mary Bruce from the White House, thank you. The war is renewing fears about Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium. President Trump now says he will not rule out sending U.S. Special Forces to secure it. Here's ABC's Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raddatz reporting from Jerusalem tonight.
Tonight, with the war with Iran now in its second week, President Trump considering sending in U.S. Special Forces to seize Iran's nuclear stockpile.
We wouldn't do it now. Maybe we'd do it later.
The president telling reporters on Air Force One the Iranians have not yet secured the uranium.
They haven't been able to get to it, and at some point maybe we will.
Last summer, the United States striking 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. But the enriched uranium remained buried deep underground. Former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Michael Oren, telling me the nuclear threat still remains.
Now, keep in mind, as long as you have that 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, it only takes a few days to enrich that to missile grade, to military grade. And that can be put into a warhead, or it can even be put into a suitcase.
What has been destroyed in Iran are its air defenses, meant to bring down Israeli or American jets. But remarkably, this Israeli fighter pilot was able to record his mission over the skies of Iran, where nuclear facilities and Iranian missile launchers are buried deep underground. Israel says they have now destroyed the majority of Iran's ballistic missile launchers, but Israeli Brigadier General Efi Defrin says many targets remain.
We have many methods together with our allies to detect those launchers, and we are doing so.
What is the goal here? I mean, when you have these phases in this operation, what is the end here?
The meaning is their nuclear capabilities. We are talking about the missile capabilities. You know, those two elements. The first one we hit back in June, the nuclear project. Now,
did you obliterate it?
Well, President Trump said we obliterated it. Therefore, we did. So this is.
Wait. Did you obliterate it?
It is damaged severely.
But there are no signs that Iran is giving up. Satellite imagery from 5 countries, including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates, appear to show Iran has targeted early detection radar systems across the region. The system's crucial to blocking Iran's deadly missile strikes. The Iranian drones remain a major threat as well, and tomorrow the first group of Ukrainian counter-drone experts will arrive here in the Middle East to train Gulf countries to bring down the drones, a skill that Ukrainians have learned from experience in its fight against Russia. Linsey?
Martha Raddatz in Jerusalem, thank you. As you've likely noticed, the war is fueling a spike in energy costs. Gas prices are up more than 50 cents across the country, and consumers could soon feel more pain with jet fuel, diesel for trucks, and tractors also surging. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Wang.
Flames at refineries lighting up the night sky in Tehran, drones striking oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, tankers targeted by drones, storage tanks attacked in Kuwait and Bahrain. All of this fueling mounting global concern of a looming energy crisis. Tonight, those strikes on oil and gas facilities across the region, forcing many major producers, including the UAE and Kuwait, to announce they're reducing production, threatening to further jolt energy markets, sending a ripple across the global economy. Americans already grappling with spiking prices at the pump, just 8 days into the war with Iran. Gas prices now up almost 50 cents since the war in Iran began, with no end in sight. Our Jacqueline Lee is in Los Angeles, where some stations are charging nearly $6 a gallon.
The national average for a gallon of gas jumped 52 cents in just a week, according to Gas Buddy. And here in Los Angeles, a gallon going for $5.39 with no sign of letting up.
Oil storage units full with nowhere to go after the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the world's oil normally passes, was effectively shut down. Tankers now at a standstill.
This is a short excursion into something that should have been done for 47 years.
Jet fuel prices soaring too. The CEO of United Airlines says this could soon push airline ticket prices higher.
It's brief. It's very temporary. Quickly after this conflict, energy prices will be back down to where they were before.
And Linsey, tonight oil prices are rapidly rising, now crossing $100 a barrel. And tomorrow, President Trump will be speaking to House Republicans here in Doral, Florida. These are some of the president's most loyal allies, but even some of them have questioned the president starting this war without congressional approval. Linsey?
A question shared by so many. Selena, thank you. Police are investigating an explosion outside the U.S. Embassy in Oslo, Norway. No injuries were reported, and authorities are searching for suspects. Let's bring in ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge. And Tom, was this a targeted attack?
It could have been, Linsey. I mean, Norwegian police are saying the investigation's at an early stage. They're using dogs, drones and helicopters to hunt one or more potential perpetrators. And given the security situation amid the war in Iran, police in Norway saying, quote, it is natural to consider whether this was a targeted attack on that US embassy in the early hours of Sunday morning. Thankfully, no one hurt, just minor damage to the embassy's entrance in the Norwegian capital, Oslo. And it comes amid heightened security back in the US. Tonight, the White House reacting to reports that the Trump administration blocked the release Friday of a 5-page bulletin about a heightened threat of attacks in the US by Iran or its proxies. The White House saying information has to be checked and released in a proper manner. Linsey?
Tom, thank you. Back here in the U.S., breaking news. The NYPD is on the scene investigating yet another suspicious device in New York City. This comes one day after police say a device thrown during dueling protests near the New York mayor's official residence, Gracie Mansion, was an improvised explosive device. The FBI's terrorism task force is also investigating. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood.
Tonight, the NYPD says this device, about the size of a football, wrapped in black tape with nuts, bolts, and screws, along with a fuse, was indeed an improvised explosive device hurled at New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani's residence during an anti-Muslim protest.
Witnesses reported seeing flames and smoke as it traveled through the air before it struck a barrier and extinguished itself a few feet from police officers.
The FBI's counterterrorism division investigating whether those devices were thrown as an act of terrorism. The incident unfolding outside Gracie Mansion Saturday during dueling protests, including one led by far-right anti-immigration figure Jake Lang and a larger group of counter-protesters. Police say tensions escalated quickly when a protester pepper-sprayed a counter-protester. And one of those suspects, police say, an 18-year-old, lit and threw one of those devices toward a police barrier. 2 suspects, both from Pennsylvania, arrested at the scene. Sources telling ABC News they told investigators they watched ISIS videos and confronted Jake Lang's protests in defense of Muslims, both facing federal charges. Mayor Mamdani was inside Gracie Mansion at the time, but both he and his wife are safe tonight.
And Linsey, just moments ago, police saying they found another suspicious device just blocks away from Gracie's Mansion. The NYPD bomb squad is on the scene. Partial evacuations underway tonight, Linsey.
Morgan, thank you. Now to an alleged toilet paper prank taking a tragic turn in Georgia. A popular high school math teacher and married father of 2 is dead, and one teen is facing multiple charges, including first-degree vehicular homicide. Here's ABC's Faith Abube.
Tonight, a Georgia community is rallying around the grieving wife and children of a beloved teacher who died in what investigators describe as a high school prank gone tragically wrong.
It's just a tragic accident all the way around.
According to the Hall County Sheriff's Office, 40-year-old Jason Hughes was killed just outside his home Friday night when a group of teenagers came to roll toilet paper on trees on his property. They say Hughes came outside, and as the 18-year-old tried to flee, the teacher tripped and fell. One of the vehicles ran him over. Investigators say Jaden Wallace, the accused driver, and his friends tried to render aid, but the teacher later died at the hospital. All 5 suspects seen here in booking photos have been criminally charged. In a statement to ABC News, Hall County Schools writing, "Our hearts are broken," adding that Hughes was a passionate teacher, mentor, and coach who was loved and respected by students and colleagues.
And Linsey, a message on a GoFundMe for the family underscores how indescribably difficult that this death is for the wife and the kids. It also underscores that the 40-year-old served his community and was a blessing to so many people. Linsey.
Just a tragic story there, Faith. Thank you. Next tonight, Houston's Hobby Airport is averaging 2-hour wait times at TSA checkpoints. Airport authorities say some of it's due to the partial government shutdown. That government shutdown is now nearly a month old. The travel industry has warned of travel disruptions from the shutdown, especially now that spring break travel is kicking into high gear. There's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday. Fans versus players as a basketball rivalry boils over, and a new round of dangerous storms is on the way. Our weather team is tracking it all. Next tonight, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has declared a state of emergency in several counties. This follows Friday's tornadoes, which killed 4 people and left a path of destruction. It was the deadliest one-day outbreak in Michigan since 1980, and there's more dangerous weather ahead. WABC meteorologist Danny Beckstrom is tracking it all for us. How's it looking, Danny?
Hey, Linsey, the severe threat is over for tonight, but this same front stalls over parts of the south tomorrow, and that could reignite some strong to severe thunderstorms Monday afternoon into Monday night. The primary concern areas here in the Mississippi Valley with damaging wind, large hail, and a few isolated tornadoes. But a more significant and widespread severe threat redevelops Tuesday into Wednesday. The system slides off the Rockies, tracking a strong line of storms from Texas up through the Midwest. And like with this last round, it's the northern portion that has the more significant threat for the strong, destructive tornadoes and really destructive wind. It is severe weather season, but we're getting an early jump, fueled in part by the near record warmth in the south and east.
Potential rocky few days ahead. Yeah. All right, Danny, thank you. When we come back, we remember one of the breakout stars of Woodstock, Country Joe McDonald. To the index, a fight broke out in El Paso Saturday just after Jacksonville State beat UTEP with a buzzer beater. One of the fans is seen picking up a chair. The visiting team had to be held back by staffers. Conference USA says it's looking into it. And tonight we're remembering Country Joe McDonald. He was best known for his performance at Woodstock in 1969, protesting the Vietnam War with the lyrics 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? Country Joe McDonald died of complications from Parkinson's disease. He was 84 years old. When we come back, America Strong, one man's journey to every corner of the country. Finally tonight, America Strong. The Grand Rapids Groundhog Day Marathon marked the end of an amazing journey for Captain Kevin Sweeney. The longtime Michigan State Trooper was cheered on by his family and friends on his 50-50-50 finish. That's 50 marathons in 50 states over 50 months. His journey came with some sacrifices, long drives and tight budgets, sometimes sleeping in a rest area instead of a hotel. But Kevin says, looking back, it was all worth it. Thanks so much for watching. David Muir right back here tomorrow night. I'm Linsey Davis in New York. Have a great evening. Good night.
David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most watched anchor in America. Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir the #1 newscast in America.